So I think when most people do hamstring curls, what they're really doing is working more glute and low back than hamstring, which it's fine if you're getting work for those, but usually when you're doing an isolation movement like a hamstring curl, you really want to target the hamstrings. So I'm going to show very, very quickly how you can make your hamstring curls right, and it's actually pretty easy to do. When he's doing this, you can see that he's got this flexion in his spine and his glutes are relaxed, okay? When it's like that, when you've got that lack of brace in your core and around your hips, it's really impossible to isolate a muscle. And so those bigger muscle groups are gonna be doing more of the work. So what I'm gonna have Donovan do is first brace his core exactly like you would in a squat or bench press, or squat or deadlift. And if you have trouble with that, just have someone put a hand on your lower back and press into their hand, all right? So he's gonna brace his core, and then he's gonna squeeze his glutes as hard as he can. Because the glutes are starting contracted, they're no longer able to lift the weight any more than this. They're already fully contracted. So now we know all the load is gonna be placed on his hamstrings. So he's gonna hold that, he's gonna flex his glutes, brace his core, and then he's gonna do the hamstring curl. And you can even see how he's got a significant more amount of activation doing it that way than if he were to do it just completely relaxed. So I'll demonstrate just so you can see how much more my hamstrings work. Thanks. So this is just a regular way. And I can still feel my hamstrings working, but it's also more of this lower part of the hamstring. And typically for a squat or a deadlift, and honestly for your physique as well, because judges are always going to be looking at a glute ham tie-in, you really want to hit the upper hamstring more if you can. So I'm going to brace my core, I'm going to flex my glutes, and then you can actually, I can feel just like that. You can see how much more contraction there is. And it's all the way at the top. What I would caution is to be very careful with that at first, because you're probably going to have very weak hamstrings. And what I found is that even enormously strong guys, Donovan's a 600-pound puller, 600-pound squatter. I've had guys strong men who, putting up 700 pounds off blocks, stuff like that, and they often find they can only use 5 or 10 pounds with this movement at first, because that part of your hamstring tends to not get a whole lot of work. Usually you are going to compensate with the glutes and the lower back. So start very light at first, because you do not want a high hamstring pull, and use a very slow and controlled tempo. But once you got the hang of it, you should be able to load it up pretty good, and I think you'll find this movement much, much more effective.